just announced teacher evaluation system and the possible hemp-based product ban in Texas.
I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. We're also continuing the conversation on Trump's tariffs battle, and Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton announced a Senate run.
And I'm Frank Billingsley, and I'm older than the Astrodome. Happy 60th birthday to the eighth wonder of the world. Join us to share your favorite Astrodome memories. 713-440-8870 or email us talk@hellohouston.org.
Also this hour, here we go again. Mamma Mia is back in Houston on stage at the Hobby Center, and they'll join us for an absolutely wonderful chat.
All that and more coming up today on Hello Houston, right after the headlines from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Our news in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump's trade war is starting to take a toll on U.S. importers. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the nation's trading partners are pushing back with import taxes of their own.
Double-digit tariffs on goods from dozens of countries kicked in overnight. U.S. importers are now paying 20% more on most things they buy from Europe, 24% more on imports from Japan, and the tax on goods from China now totals more than 100%. China punched back, announcing an extra 50% tariff of its own on U.S. exports. That takes effect tomorrow. The escalating trade war has sparked fears of a worldwide economic slowdown, pushing the price of crude oil to a 4-year low. Investors are also dumping U.S. Treasuries. That's caused a sharp jump in U.S. borrowing costs, which will likely make mortgage rates here even less affordable. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
President Trump predicts his tariffs will be, quote, legendary. At a black-tie GOP dinner last night, Trump said world leaders are essentially acquiescing to his demands for better trade deals for the United States.
They are dying to make a deal. Please, please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir. And then I'll see some rebel Republican, some guy that wants to grandstand, say, I think that Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate.
Trump at a National Republican Congressional Committee event last night. The family of a 14-year-old Palestinian-American child who was killed by Israeli forces in the West Bank last weekend is calling on the U.S. government to investigate what happened. The Israeli military says it killed a person hurling rocks at a highway in what it called a counterterrorism operation. He was the fifth U.S. citizen killed in the West Bank since October 2023, according to the State Department. NPR's Hadil Al-Shalchi has the latest.
14-year-old Amir Rabia was born and raised in New Jersey before his family moved back to their ancestral Palestinian village, Turmusaiya, which has a large population of American citizens. Rabia's father, Muhammad, said his son was picking green olives from a tree with two friends when Israeli forces opened fire on them. He said he called the U.S. Embassy when he learned about the shooting, but it took too long to send medical help. Now he's demanding answers from Israel.
He's 14 years old. They call him terrorist. Even if he did something wrong, he's underage. You kill him with 11 shots.
The U.S. State Department confirmed the death of a U.S. citizen in the West Bank and said Israel was investigating it. Hadil Al-Shalchi, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
At last check on Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was down 70 points at 37,574. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Thomas. Things are already getting tense as Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton launches a campaign formally against Senator John Cornyn in the 2026 Republican primary for senator. News 88.7 political reporter Andrew Schneider says Paxton made the announcement on Laura Ingram's program on Fox News last night.
Paxton had been hinting at a run for months before making it official. Mark Jones of Rice University's Baker Institute says Paxton will make a formidable competitor to Cornyn among Republican primary voters.
Paxton is taking a calculated risk, though, with November voters. We need to keep in mind that Ken Paxton has never faced a credible Democratic challenger in his 3 statewide attorney general bids, running against second-tier or unknown candidates who had campaigns that at best had $1 million altogether to spend. The U.S. Senate race in November of 2026 is going to be a completely different animal.
Jones says Paxton's announcement will set off a fierce Republican competition for the Attorney General's nomination. Paxton does not have to resign as Attorney General to run for the Senate. I'm Andrew Schneider, News 88.7.
Texas lawmakers are more than halfway through the legislative session, and one issue lawmakers are discussing is changes to the state's annual standardized test, also known as STAR. House Bill 4 would reduce the length of the STAR exam and prioritize post-secondary preparation. Houston ISD State-appointed Superintendent Mike Miles on News 88.7's Hello Houston called STAR as it is reliable and valid. But he added that the district considers other exams to measure students' success. If lawmakers decide to pass the bill and redesign the STAR exam, it may go by a different name next school year. Checking out the weather, it is going to be a very nice afternoon as we warm to about 80 degrees. Mostly clear tonight with lows in the lower 50s. I'm Matt Thomas, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. This is NPR.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston.
Hello, Houston.
there.
Oh, my God, what a show we have today.
It's hump day. Made it to the middle of the week.
The subjects are pretty interesting.
I mean, it's been a long month.
Yesterday.
At least the weather's gorgeous.
That was my mom joke. It is absolutely beautiful
more
outside.
great April weather. And by the way, the art car parade on Saturday.
Coming up this weekend.
We actually have a dry front Friday, so it's going to cool us back down for Saturday.
that'll be nice.
Yeah, and so it's going to be low humidity, and the high will be right around 80, so it's going to be a stellar art car parade afternoon.
Which I'm very excited about because I, as a Houstonian, have never been to the art car parade.
Not
Ernie.
only are you going to be there, you're going to be announcing.
I know.
All of us, you'll get to see your favorite Hello Houston team, your only Hello Houston team, announcing the art car parade.
Just like you can see us on YouTube.
You can
Yes.
just go to HoustonPublicMedia.org, and there's a link, or go to YouTube because we have our own channel there, Houston Public Media, and you can watch us live.
And if you're gonna be there on Saturday, come visit us. Come say hi and tag us in your Instagram. Tag us at hellohouston.show and take a few pictures with us.
We'll talk more about that on Friday. We'll have someone from Art Car with us here. And then, of course, Saturday is the parade. But coming up this hour, as Frank alluded to, lots of great topics, everything from education to tariffs to Mamma Mia's in town. We'll talk about all of that.
Yeah.
But
THC bans.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second. Celeste, take us into the headlines.
That's right. Thanks, Ernie. So the Fort Bend Independent School District is considering a gender policy that will require parents to be notified if their child uses a pronoun in school and during school that differs from their biological sex. This is obviously very controversial. Do you think parents should be notified if their child is asking to be identified as something other than their biological sex? Now is the time to call in with your comments and questions, 713-440-8870. So trustees for Fort Bend ISD discussed its potential parents' rights and responsibilities policy during a board meeting on Monday night. And to clarify, both Katy ISD and Cy-Fair ISD currently have similar policies in place right now.
And I'm not sure the one at Katie's working from what I've read. A lot of the students that are transgender feel like they're just being put back in the closet at school, and they are having to use what they call their dead name, which if they were a John and now they're a Jane, John is their dead name. or maybe the other way around. So that I don't think it's doing a lot for the students from what I've read. But I do want to know what people think. 713-440-8870.
I do think that these kind of bills, these kind of movements that we're seeing all over the place are thinking we live in an ideal world where if this is happening, parents, of course, should know what's going on with their children. So you share information.
Right.
Unfortunately, we live in the real world where that could mean violence at home, ostracizing your child. Not everyone lives in a perfect household. And so maybe a child, for many years, school has been an escape, a safe haven for children.
Absolutely. School and
your
your parents' home should be safe places.
Right.
And
But they're not always.
They're not
Of course not.
always.
And it also comes down to, do you believe that transgender is a real thing?
And well, you mentioned that.
If it's a real thing, you need to respect it.
And I agree. And I believe that civil rights applies to all. Mincho, one of our producers, and I were discussing this earlier. It's not just a certain group. Civil rights apply to everyone.
Right. Well,
And my thought, though, is as a parent, and I'm putting myself out there, I would want to know if my child was going to school. And now, obviously, I am a supportive parent. But I would want to make sure, and I think that a lot of parents can agree, sometimes we just have to have common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, people are people. And I would really want to know how many transgender, how many students at Katy ISD actually consider themselves transgender.
I read 44. I read that number.
Out of
44 out of how many?
Oh, I know. Look, we've discussed how many.
district.
There are as many transgender people in the world as there are redheads.
As
Is that
redheads. That's
4%?
the statistic. Yeah,
So-
no, a little less than
And
that,
so-
actually.
and
And
I-
so how many times have you run across a redhead?
Right.
You've probably met somebody who has a sense of gender.
Or
gender
non-binary.
change. Right,
Non-binary's
non-binary.
included.
Yeah. I do want to bring up one point, though, that you said, and it's slightly off topic, but I think it supports the whole point here. And that is that when James Byrd Jr., he was the infamous dragging victim in Jasper, Texas, they were passing the James Byrd hate crime legislation. And they went to Mrs. Byrd and they said to her, we're going to pass this, but we need to take protection for gay and lesbians out of the bill for it to pass. And Mrs. Byrd, now James Byrd, as far as we know, was not gay or lesbian. Oh, not gay. And she said, if you take that out of the bill, take my son's name off of it, because hate against anyone is hate against everyone.
That's beautiful.
And really fascinating.
And it really is one of the things where you just it's a very complex situation. And we have Toy from Missouri City who wants to join the conversation. Good morning, Toy.
Hi, good morning.
What is your comment on this?
I think it's pretty much a no-brainer that a parent would, one, be notified, but also even ask permission. If a child is requesting in their school environment to be referred to as an opposite gender, that's a red flare clue that parents and family need to get together and get some things figured out. I don't even think it's up for question that a parent be notified.
Yeah, Toy, I thank you for calling in and letting us know your comments. And if you have a comment or a thought on this, give us a call, 713-440-8870.
It comes down to the relationship with the parent. I mean,
Right.
some parents are going to not respond well to that. I think perhaps it starts with school counselors. And if you identify differently than your biological gender, perhaps the school, and it depends on age. I mean, this just says child. This could be a first grader or a 12th grader, apparently.
Well,
Right.
I mean, I can
it's-
tell you this much. When my kids are 40, they're still going to be my babies,
Yeah,
right?
well, okay. So
Does that count as one of your I'm a mom statements?
Yeah,
well,
right.
I would want to be a school counselor to sit down with this child and say, tell me about why can you not talk about this at home, or can you? And maybe they already do.
And to that point, according to board documents, there are 5 objectives within the policy. And to that point, number 5 says district staff will not diagnose or treat gender dysphoria and will respect the right of the parent to determine what is best for the welfare of their child.
All right, Victoria from Sugarland is online. Victoria, what do you have to say about this?
All right, we'll get Victoria back on the line in a second as we continue to discuss this. But I still go back to the fact, the safety of the child. And I think as a parent, of course you want to know what's going on with your child when you can't see what your child is doing. You want to know. But what happens when these sorts of things, though, do lead to trouble at home, to concern? what is the best welfare for the child, I guess.
Right.
And I would assume in most cases, I'm sorry, I cut you off, but
No,
it's
I apologize.
parental control. Parents are in control of their children until they reach a certain age.
Well, where does it stop?
But yeah, it's a very...
And I tell you what, I mean, my kids are 4 and 9, and you can't control. They are who they are.
Right.
And I think
Do you
that
want to be
even-
alerted with what's going on with your child, with your children?
I would. I absolutely would. And the thing is that we're assuming that even in a perfect environment, even in a perfect home, your teenager is going to come talk to you. Mm-hmm. Every parent knows that teens don't just come out and say, "Hey, mom, this is what's going on with my boyfriend or girlfriend." You know, it's as a parent, you don't want your child, and I would imagine as a teacher, you don't want a young person to feel alienated.
Ever.
And ever. And that is where we have to figure out how to bridge this gap.
All right, Victoria's on the line now. Victoria from Sugar Land, hi.
Yeah, hi. Sorry about the audio
No problem.
I do have a child in the FEISD system, and I really, to me, I think there's so many more cons than there are pros with this idea of informing the parent around pronoun use. And I also think it's very complex around like age or grade level. But, you know, yeah, as someone who wants their child to feel safe and knowing that there are homes that children are not safe in, it just seems like such a small thing to happen at schools to have to notify parents. I mean, there's so many more things I'd rather hear about from my schools that I'm not hearing about than whether or not my son wants to be called something specific. So I really feel like the school could do so many more positive things and focus on so many more positive things that would affect the majority of students instead of, to your point, 4% of students.
Right. Victoria, let me ask you, and I'm just curious to look at this from a different point of view. You mentioned your son. If your son had been going to school and started telling his classmates that he wants to be identified as a different sex or started using a different name, you would be okay with the school not reaching out to you and saying, you know, this is going on, we just want to let you know, Victoria?
On an individual level, yes, I would say I would be fine with that. You know, I would say we have a very healthy home life. I have a really good relationship with my son. And so knowing that on an individual level, it wouldn't be an issue of concern for me. I can see where the school would be concerned about other situations. But no, on a personal level, I would be fine.
Well, Victoria,
there's so much that my son does at school that I don't know what it is. I have no idea what he's doing on the playground. So I would rather know about if they're like, this is happening in this context of we have this self-harm or violence towards another child or, you know.
So Victoria, let me ask you this. If, let's say your child did go to school, identified differently, and you were never told until perhaps, you know, high school graduation, and now your son says, by the way, Mom, I've been at high school as a female for a long time now, you just didn't know. Would you be angry with the school if they knew and they didn't tell you?
No.
No, okay. That's a great answer.
Yeah. No, there's so many things about my child that I'm not going to know about in the context of their relationships, in the context of their relationships with teachers. And that is my son's privilege, his, you know, preference, his, I can't think of the right word, but it is up to him to tell me. And it's more indicative of his relationship with me of what he can trust to tell me.
Victoria, before we let you go, though, I do want to quickly commend you on the relationship you have within your family, that it sounds like it's a very healthy and communicative family. And I want to give you a moment if you want to speak to other parents out there about how to keep those lines of communication open with your children.
I think one of the things that I've heard in the parenting community that's helped me the most is look at your children as individual people. You know, I know for me as a child, I want to have that relationship with my parents where they're looking at me as a human being and respecting each individual part of me. And, you know, my parents are people too, and I want to foster that kind of relationship with them where I understand that they are individual people. And looking at broader society, you know, we are all humans. We're all experiencing the human experience.
Victoria, thank you so much for sharing with us
You're
today.
a great mom, Victoria. Thanks for calling us.
And we have another caller, Jamie from Missouri City. Hi, Jamie.
Hi.
What's your comment today?
My comment is I don't understand how people cannot understand that gender dysplasia and gender dysmorphia is a real medical condition.
It is. I agree with you. It is.
And what about living and let live? And people need to live their own truth. And I have a middle schooler, and our lines of communication are very open. And I agree with the last caller. I wouldn't be upset if the school didn't say, but I'm going to know. I'd be more upset at myself not knowing what my child is going through, or that my child could not come to me. You know, if our children have a cleft palate, we would get it fixed. If our children needed an ocular implant to hear, we would get it fixed. But, you know, I know the school's hands might be tied on some things because of state legislation, but this is just ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
I agree with you. It's almost like if two boys were walking down the hall holding hands, just like a boy and a girl were walking down the hall holding hands, should the school call the parents and say, we think you have a homosexual son?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think that child will come out to his parents when he feels like that time is right.
I absolutely agree to that. I absolutely agree. And the more you're involved with your kids, the more they're going to talk. I've told mine from an early age, I don't care, gay, straight, what, I'm going to love you. I don't care. You are as God created you. And there is just, I don't see the difference in that. I really don't. Live your truth.
And I think that most children, no matter what age, know their parents a lot better than a school does.
We had, mine had a friend who came out to be gay, who came out to his friends sitting at the lunch table and was starting to get harassed by a few kids. And my son said, we've known him since the second grade. He's no different. He's just living his truth. Why are you? And, you know, the perspective then kind of changed a little bit. And I was very proud of him for standing up to say, we've known him since second grade. What is any different now that he's just telling us and being comfortable in his own skin to be himself? It doesn't make a difference.
Jamie, again, thank you for calling in. And again, I commend your ability to have an open and good relationship with your children. And I wish that for all students out there.
All students,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you for
Jamie.
calling. Yeah, it's a
complex.
very tricky situation. And in an ideal
Or it's
world,
not. Or it's not. It's
But
just
see,
leave people to be who they are.
Right. But you, as a parent, you want a right to know what's happening. I mean, I remember as a kid, parent-teacher conferences, they would have them twice a year. Our parents would go and our teacher would tell them everything we were doing, problems that we were having in school and all of that. If I were going by a different name, if I had seen myself differently, I would think in those conversations that would come out. But the problem is, in a family that's supportive and accepting is different than some families that just disagree with this whole thing and this whole understanding of gender today, that they could be very upset if they found out a school was not mentioning
I would
that.
be upset.
So I see both sides of this.
I
very
absolutely.
clearly.
But your kids know you and know your husband. I mean, they know mom and dad differently.
And we have a very loving and open and
But
supportive.
sometimes that means they don't want to hurt you. It's
Right.
like if society looks down on this, I don't want to hurt my mom because I love her. And if she finds this out, she's going to be hurt by me. And that's why kids stay in the closet. They don't want to hurt their parents, and they feel more comfortable at school because of their friends.
I think you're right in the sense that you know, the relationship between a child and a parent is very complex just to begin with.
Yeah. Especially when there are these taboo subjects.
Exactly.
If we all just accepted it, it wouldn't become taboo anymore, and it would be a lot more on the kitchen table.
Maybe the answer is the effort and all this work that's being put into these kind of bills and movements should be put into working with parents and children and building healthier family relationships where understanding and lines of communication are
It's not going to happen with policies like this,
Right,
Ernie.
that's what I'm saying. Put your effort over there instead of on these policies.
That's
More to
right.
come on this topic and so many more. We had more we wanted to talk about, but this one has got you going, so we're going to keep on it. Also, though, coming up after the break, we're going to talk with John Diamond and Jackie Anderson. Jackie Anderson is from the Houston Federation of Teachers, and John Diamond's going to be talking tariffs with us from Rice University. Plus, we want to hear what you think. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
It's important for me to be using my voice. I can tell you about what's going on at Princeton, that everything we do at one university in the United States depends upon this extraordinary ecosystem of universities that we have. I think this would be so much stronger if many more of my fellow presidents were speaking up.
I'm Rachel Abrams. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
You can hear that tonight at 7 on News 88.7.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston system, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times, and locations is online at uhsystem.edu. Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, follow the people fighting to save nature and understand how to mitigate the effects of carbon on our planet. The series, The Future of Nature, continues tonight at 9 on TV8 or on the PBS app. Support comes from the Woodlands Waterway Arts Festival. Over 200 artists, authors, live music, food, and children's activities at the Woodlands Waterway, April 11th through 13th. More at thewoodlandsartscouncil.org, a 20-year journey of making art matter. Support comes from Collaborative for Children's Collab Kid U, this Saturday at Rice University. There, young children can engage in STEAM activities, explore renewable energy, robotics, and more. Tickets at collabforchildren.org.
Support comes from Baylor College of Medicine, creating tomorrow's medicine today. Known for their medical research and innovation, Baylor College of Medicine is a proud sponsor of Houston Matters with Craig Cohen, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from electricityplans.com, helping Houstonians find electricity plans based on home energy usage with tools to compare rates. Enrollment details and more at electricityplans.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
We are back. A lot of
Hello.
excitement there with the transgender topic we were talking about. But now we are moving on. But of course, we're still taking your calls. But we're moving on to tariffs. If you have a thought, feeling, opinion on all that's going on in this tariff, I don't know if you want to call it a tariff war, a tariff whatever.
It's almost terror-if war, isn't it?
Oh, I like that one. On the tariffs. Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
The 104% import tariff President Trump set on China went into effect yesterday. But leaders in Beijing aren't backing down. They have announced that they are implementing an 84% levy on goods imported from the United States. And the European Union has also announced its own retaliatory tariffs on American goods. Many are saying these tariffs will cause more harm than good for American industries. But what exactly could the short and long-term effects of these tariffs be? To tell us more, we welcome John Diamond. He's the Edward A. and Hermana Hancock Kelly Senior Fellow and Public Finance Director for the Center for Tax and Budget Policy at Rice University's Baker Institute. John, good morning and welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi, John.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're glad you're here. That's quite a title. We're looking to you to explain this whole tariff situation to us, especially how does one arrive at 104% and 84%? I don't understand how we arrived at that.
That is just when things have gone all wrong. You start at 10%. And the other person then says, great, I'll match you. And then you go to 34%. And then they say, I'll match you. And then you add on an extra 50%. And before you know it, you're talking real numbers.
Wow. To clarify Frank's point there, too, as I understand the formula that the White House is using for these tariffs, it may be a little wonky in its design, too.
Yeah. Now, the formula the White House used is complete garbage. It has no economic
But how do you really
content.
feel about it?
It makes no sense. And even the formula they use, they misuse some data within the formula.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they did was they came up with the absolute biggest number they could, and then they cut it in half so they could look magnanimous, and then they imposed it. And unfortunately, then some of our competitors are retaliating, and that's pushing everything up.
To put it into practical form, as I understand, an item from China that may have cost us $10 last week because of these tariffs would cost like $18.50-ish now. Is that how we would feel it?
Not exactly.
That is how. Yeah, I mean, technically it's going to cost. If it's $10, if it was $10, it's going to cost around $20 now. And,
but John, who absorbs that cost? Is my point.
So the way it eventually. So it's going to go several places. There's markets. There's supplies of elasticity and demand. But all research shows that the majority will end up on the consumer.
Wow.
Some, the exporter from China may cut their profit margins a little and absorb a little. The importer, so the person that imports it to the U.S. for the retailer, may absorb a little. And then the retailer will pass it on to the consumer. They may absorb a little, they may not. But, yeah, the consumer is going to face the large majority of the cost.
Well, and then the domino effect is, because now that item went from $10 to $20, I'm going to buy fewer of those items. The businesses will sell fewer of those items and have to lay off employees because they can't afford to pay them anymore. And now we have a recession.
Correct. That is definitely a likely outcome. I mean, now with tariffs, there's always winners and losers. So, tariffs are protective taxes. So the industry you put the tariff on will benefit because they can now produce the good in the United States and sell it for 20 instead of 10. They used to face a competitor that sold it at 10. Well, now they can raise their prices to 20. So in that industry, you may have an expansion of output. But then every industry that uses that product or consumers that have to pay for it, they all get whacked. And so the winner is the protected industry. Everyone else is the loser. Research shows that the losses are almost always larger than the gains.
So where do you see it going? Who's going to blink first, John?
That is impossible to even take a guess at.
I was just hoping you would know.
I wish I knew. If I knew, I would make proper investment.
Yeah, right. Let us know, too.
Well, John, I do have a question. Yeah. Could other countries place import levies on American goods? Is this just the beginning of what's to come?
Absolutely, they can. And, the administration has been very unclear about what they're seeking. I've heard them say they don't want 0-0. They want a zero tariff, plus they want the other country paying us money. And there is a point at which other countries will just say, no, we're not going to do that. That's not fair to us. And so, we're at that stage of negotiating, and the two sides have to come to some agreement. And unfortunately, the more it turns into retaliation, the larger the economic negatives that we're all going to face.
Wow.
Yikes.
John, we have to leave it there pretty much. Thank you for being on today, and hopefully we can call you early and often, but hopefully we won't have to, but I have a feeling we're going to.
Yeah, anytime. It's a pleasure to join the show.
Thanks, John.
Thank
you, John. All right, we're going to move on to HISD. They're moving forward with plans to pay teachers based on student performance. So they've said that Sandy Massey, who's chief of schools, said that teachers that are effective will be getting compensated for their performance through an evaluation system beginning next school year. So that evaluation system is basically quality of instruction, student achievement, your campus action plan. I'm not sure I understand what that is. And then planning and professionalism. Some say it unfairly compensates teachers. To tell us more, we want to welcome Jackie Anderson, the president for the Houston Federation of Teachers. Good morning, Jackie. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Good morning.
So tell me, first of all, give me an explainer on what TES is, just sort of like I'm a fifth grader.
Well, TES is the system that they will be using to evaluate teacher effectiveness, and I put that in quotes.
Okay, well, I'm sure people have an opinion on this, and you can call us at 713-440-8870 if you have any questions for Jackie or just want to comment. So what does the current teacher evaluation system look like versus what this will look like?
The current evaluation system, which was T-TEST, the state-adopted system, measures teachers' effectiveness. However, in the past, the systems we have used in HISD did not determine whether or not you have a job in the preceding year. With the spot checks that have been added.
Those are once a month, someone comes in? And...
No. It's not once a month. It could be 2 or 3 times in one day.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Teachers are, yes, and this is another thing that teachers are talking about because it's very interruptive, very intrusive, and it micromanages your instructional practices.
Could that be done with cameras in the classroom? I mean, I don't want to sound creepy, but couldn't someone monitor the classroom, both audio and video, in a very discreet way? Or is that too expensive?
I'm sure that it could, but I'm sure it would be very expensive.
Well, but I mean, a Ring camera these days is $149.
Jackie, let me ask you quickly. There should be, I assume, evaluation of teachers. From where you sit, what is the right way to do that? How should we be evaluating what's happening in the classroom with teachers?
Well, I think we should have a standard for teachers. We should make sure that our teachers are actually providing quality instruction.
How do we do that?
Along with that, well, we should have the appraiser should be doing coaching, and not just the words saying we're providing it, but they should be actually in there providing coaching. They should be providing professional development, and there should be standards. Now, when you give people a scripted lesson, tell them that this is what they have to do. How is this allowing for teachers to use their creative juices to instruct students and look at students' outcomes? When you're providing and saying that you will use this cookie-cutter model to instruct children, whether they are at that level or not, you're putting a teacher at a disadvantage, and then you're coming back and evaluating them based on what you have told them they have to do. Mm-hmm. They have not been allowed to adjust the instruction for the student's need. And then if they don't perform well, you're blaming the teacher.
Well, I did talk to one teacher about this who basically said, if you're doing your job, any way they want to evaluate you really shouldn't matter. If you're doing your job well, then you'll come out looking like a rose. True or false?
Well, false.
That's too simple. I know that might be too simple, but I mean, where are the real pitfalls in this new system, do you think?
The real pitfall for me is, having been an educator for 33 years, children come into my classroom from all different levels, various experiences in life. I cannot use the same teaching strategy for every child.
True. Mm-hmm.
I cannot use a cookie-cutter model. I have to meet children. An effective educator will meet children where they are, and they will bring them up. But everybody's not going to start the same, so they're not going to end the same. And it's unrealistic to expect all students to be at the same place in May when they didn't start at the same place in August.
You made a comment there about effective educators. So how do we ensure that we have effective educators, and how do we ensure that the educators we currently have in classrooms are effective?
If a child comes in on for example, 3rd grade level, mm-hmm. At the end of the year they're on 3.5 or 4, you have an effective educator. They have shown growth. Mm-hmm. But a single test is not going to determine if a child is grown. And we know from what has happened in the past that spot scores are very subjective. Another way it might be done is to have less spot scores so teachers can teach and then evaluate the student to see if they have shown growth. I think growth is the key word here.
Do you think that students ought to be tested at the beginning of the school year and then in the middle and the end to show that growth, or is there a better way to do it?
Because that
Absolutely.
is what Superintendent Miles is advocating for in the bill, 1962 bill that he was in Austin last Tuesday.
Right. I agree. They should be tested at the beginning, and they have been. Mm-hmm. They have been tested at the beginning, tested mid-year, MOY, tested at the end, EOY, and BOY in the beginning, and that's perfectly fine. But in between time, allow teachers to teach students. You know, when Mike Miles came in with his hospital model, nobody's going to grade. The teacher's not going to grade, and we're going to have people doing that. Let me tell you, that was a bad mistake. Teachers use grading their students' work to inform their teaching practices. If you see students all missing the same problem. All didn't get in the same incorrect answer. That you as an educator knows what you need to do, what you need to go back and teach, what you need to review. But if somebody else is grading the papers, giving them to you, or putting the grades in for you, how are you supposed to inform your teaching?
Yeah. We had Mike Miles on the show yesterday, and we got quite a bit of email about it. One person wrote me, and what they were talking about was the fact that those that are being hired into the system do not have teaching degrees or certifications that are most effective in the classroom. Is that a reality?
That is a reality. When a lot of our teachers that are remaining in HISD are not certified. You know, at the beginning of the year, we had asked people to go and apply who we knew were not certified, and they were hired on the spot.
We have a call from Lana from Pasadena. Good morning, Lana.
Hello.
What is your question or comment?
So I'll keep it brief. I'm in Pasadena ISD, and my school uses a T-test still, but my husband had previously been in HISD where he was a theater teacher, and he was getting walkthroughs 3 times a day. They expected checks for understanding every 4 minutes from a theater teacher. How can you get through a rehearsal? It just seems like all of this is a push to make teachers feel defeated and therefore leave the profession or consider something else, and then they will get their voucher system. That's what all of this feels like it's gearing towards.
You might be right. Jackie, how do you feel about that?
I 100% agree with Lena, with the caller. I think she said her name was Lena.
Yes.
And this is what I'm talking about with the spots. And when you are trying to teach and you have to stop every 4 minutes, you are
That's
interrupting
ridiculous.
the flow.
That's
It is
ridiculous.
ridiculous. You are interrupting the flow of instruction. You have to go back. You know, children, anybody who works with children and knows that they have very short attention span, and you stop, you have to almost start all over.
Well, and who has time? Who has time to do these spot checks of these classrooms? And who are we paying somebody to do this?
It's the principal. It's usually the principal.
Well, principal ought to be principaling, should not be spending all their time in classrooms.
And does the spot checks.
Last quick question for you. What is the communication like between the Houston Federation of Teachers and the HISD board? Are you guys communicating with Miles on this? What's been the back and forth here?
But there has been no back and forth, and actually, Mr. Miles has yet to try to interact with us. And we have told him in the beginning we want to be a partner in our children's education and in our teachers' success. That's our sole job. We're not here to be combative. We're not here to gripe and complain without coming to a middle ground for a solution. Our job here is to support our teachers and support this district. We all are invested in this district.
Well, we'll invite you both back at the same time. That's all we can do. I can't guarantee you that we can get you both back, but we can certainly try.
Thank you,
Right.
Jackie.
You're welcome.
Jackie Anderson is the president for the Houston Federation of Teachers. Thanks for joining us, Jackie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So in other HISD news, our News 88.7's Colleen de Guzman reported yesterday that HISD has half as many school nurses as they did last year. While the district has said this isn't an issue, experts are warning this extreme of nursing shortage could affect students' well-being. To tell us more, we are joined by News 88.7 reporter Colleen de Guzman. Colleen, thanks for joining us.
I'm happy to be here.
So let's just right off the bat, what compelled you to look into essentially staffing shortages in schools?
How'd you even hear about this?
I wrote a story a couple years ago about the national shortage of school nurses, and I was just curious about how many school nurses HISD has. And so I filed a public information request asking for the number of school nurses employed by HISD this year up to 2020. And I saw that sharp decline last year compared to this year.
So
okay,
that,
I'm the
it's
numbers
really half, right?
I'm the numbers guy. So always, how many nurses did we have? How many do we currently have? And how many schools are we talking about?
So we're talking about 270-ish campuses.
Okay.
And in the 2023-2024 school year, HISD had 269 school nurses. And these school nurses were arranged between full-time, 11-hour shifts, according to the Excel sheet they sent me, and part-time. And this school year, this 2024-2025 school year, they have 140 school nurses. And so that's a decline of about 130 school nurses.
So that's still serving
Almost
270
50%.
campuses.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's almost half, right? Now, are these 140 nurses working 11-hour shifts?
They work a variety of shifts. According to the the response that I got, they vary between full-time, 11-hour, part-time. So we're talking about all the school nurses.
Is this a money thing? Do they just get rid of nurses because they can't afford them?
It's a mix of things. I didn't get a direct response from the school district on why this is the case, but according to experts who are familiar with school nurses tend to be older. They tend to go into schools when they're kind of close to retirement. So the turnaround rate for school nurses are shorter, and school nurses tend to go work. They make more in hospitals, so it's kind of hard to compete the salaries.
So you started by saying that there was a national shortage of school nurses. Do we see this? Do we attribute this to the shortage of nurses is why the number's so low? Or is it the lack of interest in refilling those positions from the district?
I asked that to the district, and they dodged my questions. The only response that I got from them after asking all those questions of did these school nurses leave or did they get laid off? Were they caught in the tide of the layoffs? And I asked them what's going to be done about this. The response that they said was school nurse staffing levels are not a measure of student safety or health service quality. And so I talked to the National School Nurse Association and the Texas School Nurse Association, and they were shocked by that statement. One of them said that anyone who would make that statement does not know what school nurses do and what their role is on campuses. So that's what I know.
We have Jalynn Steele on the line.
Who is our next guest. And that will be coming up in a little bit. So, Colleen, overall, do you think that the rotation of nurses is not sufficient in order to make sure that each individual school, their students are being protected?
Yeah.
In regards to falls, breaks, illness, who is covering? Do we know who's covering when there's a campus that doesn't have a nurse? Where do they go? Do they call 911? What happens?
So I asked that to the district, and they told me that school nurses are not rotating, that each school nurse that they have is designated to one campus. And so I'm thinking that the campuses that aren't represented just don't have a point of contact for healthcare services. And I think that according to the statement, they told me that schools that don't have a school nurse may be allocating some of the monies in different ways, possibly teaching teachers how to take care of students' health needs. But studies show that when a teacher or a principal or any other staff member who isn't specifically trained for healthcare is addressing a student's healthcare needs, that student is sent home because of a medical issue 18% of the time. Wow. But when it's a healthcare professional, a school nurse, they are sent home 5% of the time. And so the presence of school nurses really is closely tied to attendance at school, which means a student's education is really affected by the presence of a nurse.
Well, I would just, from a personal standpoint, my golf tournament raises money for Legacy Community Healthcare, and we have 37 nurses stations in 37 schools, charter schools and Galena Park ISD. And I can't think of a better reason to raise money. It's for schools, especially underserved schools, but for schools to have a nurse on staff and in the school. So I hope you'll continue to pursue this.
That's right. Colleen is a reporter for News 88.7, and you can see all of her HISD coverage on our website at houstonpublicmedia.org. Colleen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we speak with Mamma Mia's Jalynn Steele, and we are also taking your calls on any of today's topics at 713-440-8870. This is Hello Houston on News 87. 88.
The far end of the human lifespan seems to be about 110 years. So what would it take to make it to, say, 150?
If we can understand the causes of aging and tackle aging directly, maybe we can breach this limit.
A Nobel Prize-winning molecular biologist on the quest to expand our longevity. That's next time on Think.
You can hear Think coming up tonight at 10 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Craig Cohen, the host of Houston Matters. Join me weekday mornings at 9 or at your leisure on your podcast feed for your daily guide to the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. From politics to the economy, energy to the environment, healthcare to education to transportation and beyond. If it matters to Houston, it matters to us. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts or live on the air weekdays at 9 a.m. right here on News 88.7.
On the hit medical drama The Pit, actress Taylor Dearden is being celebrated for her portrayal of a talented young emergency room doctor who, like Dearden, is neurodivergent.
Recognizing that something's hard for anyone and then being able to overcome it if you are neurodivergent, hopefully that should just make it even sweeter.
I'm Elsa Chang. How The Pit portrays neurodivergence and gets it right. On All Things Considered from NPR News.
It's coming up today at 3 o'clock.
Support comes from Houston Grand Opera, presenting their 25-26 season with classics like Humperdinck's Hansel and Gretel and Rossini's comedy The Barber of Seville. Subscriptions and more at hgo.org. Support comes from Houston Chamber Choir, presenting Gather Round, the final concert of founder and artistic director Robert Simpson's 30-year tenure. Saturday, May 31st at St. Luke's Methodist Church. Tickets at houstonchamberchoir.org/radio.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
If you are watching us on YouTube, you would see that I was just dancing with one shoulder to that music.
But tell them why you said you were dancing with just one
I'm so tired. I couldn't move the other shoulder. Last night I went and saw Mamma Mia, and everyone gets up at the end, and they're all dancing and moving. I'm just standing there, and somebody I didn't know turned to me and said, "Dance!" And I'm like, "All right."
Are you naturally a dancer, Ernie?
I'm a mover.
Okay.
I'm a mover.
What about you, Frank? Are you a dancer?
Yeah, but I dance like Elaine from Seinfeld. I'm just kind of thumbs,
Yeah?
I'm not a good dancer.
I love to dance.
Our next guest knows how to dance and knows how to bring groove. Okay, Celeste, you know how to dance too. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
You are listening to Hello Houston, in case you're wondering. And right now, the hit jukebox musical Mamma Mia is back in Houston on its North American tour. It's at the Hobby Center through Sunday, April 13th. It tells the story, if you don't know already, of a mother and a daughter and the three men who might be her father.
Whoa.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yikes.
Believe it or not, this show has been around now almost 25 years. It's become a classic, and I still think of it as a new show. Of course, lifted up by the wonderful music of the Swedish supergroup who won Eurovision. ABBA. With us now to tell us more is the actress who I have to say, I saw it last night, she steals the show. I'm not just saying it because she's on the show. And Jalynn, I'm sorry if that makes it tough between you and your castmates, but you were delightful. Jalynn Steele is with us. She plays the wonderful role of Tanya. Welcome to the program.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here this morning.
I've got to say, watching you up there made me full of joy, even though I wasn't up dancing as much because I was tired. When you came on, your moments in the show were just delightful, a breath of fresh air in an already fun and exciting show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's always fun to get on stage and do what I love.
Well,
especially with such a joyous show.
We love seeing you do it. I've got to say, though, people love ABBA. It's amazing.
Yes, they do. The music is classic. It's timeless, and it can be a bit of an earworm. Once you get it in your head, it's not going anywhere.
It must be great fun to sing it, Tanya.
Oh, yes. It's a lot of fun to sing it. It's a lot of fun to get on stage every night and just share this joy and this hope, this wacky story about a mom, a daughter, and three possible dads every single night. So it's a lot of fun.
So, Jalynn, you perform all over the nation. And what is the vibe like to perform here in Houston?
Oh, it's great. It's great. I personally feel like I'm at home.
Yeah.
growing up in Lamarck, Texas, right down 45. It's taken me many years to get here, but this is actually the first time I've been able to do any show.
Really?
Here in Houston. Yeah.
Oh, that's
so
what I
it's,
saw on
it's
your
a joy.
I saw on your Instagram you had the post about when I think of home from the Wiz up there
Yes.
because you're home.
Yes.
You know,
so cool.
another connection you have to the Houston area, and you may not even be aware of this, but Titanic, you were part of that. And actually, the guy who co-created it comes right here from Houston, Ty Blue. And this weekend, he won an Olivier Award for Titanic.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow.
You want to know something else?
Tell me.
Ty Blue and I were very, very good friends at Sam Houston State University. We were in the same musical theater class.
Oh, how
Love
funny.
it.
Funny. That's
But yeah, I did Titanic sort of when the world shut down during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
We came back out and did the first streaming performance of the show, and it's another incredible show to be a part of. So,
Yeah. Well, I was just so happy to see, in a sense, Houston represented at the Oliviers. That was just awesome.
Oh,
For those
that's
who don't know,
interesting.
let me just point out that the Oliviers are UK's version of the Tony Awards.
Yeah, it's interesting, don't you think, Jalynn, that Titanic has not been really a traveling show, which it so easily could be. It's one set.
It definitely could.
But it's Chicago, Montreal, London, New York. But why do you think that
It is
Ty
growing.
Why won't Ty take it on the road, or will he?
You never know.
Never
You
say
never
never.
know. I think Ty would probably be better handled to answer that, but it definitely could. It definitely could go.
You
for it.
are here, though, with Mamma Mia. And so
Yes.
we've seen a lot happening, especially around the Wicked movie, of people just wanting to sing during the show. You are in a show where so many people know every word of the songs. What are your thoughts? Are people breaking out in song during the show? I know you'd probably prefer they wait till the end of the show to sing along, but how do you feel about that?
You know what? As long as people are having fun and spreading joy, I don't mind at all. We need so much more of that in this world. these
Amen.
days.
That's a good point.
So as long as they're having fun and spreading joy, the more fun the audience has, the more fun we have. So it's just one of those kind of moments to culminate in more joy.
I want to take it back to Tanya for a minute here. And a lot of folks who are familiar with the movie are familiar with Christine Baranski playing the role.
Yes.
When you
Yes.
take on a role like that, how much are you free to put Jalynn in it, and how much do you feel you have to represent what they're hoping to see?
Well, it's very funny that you asked that question. Anytime I approach any type of role, I kind of see what's out there, see what they have, what works and what's well, and then I put my Jalynn on it. I have to.
I love that.
I believe we're all unique individuals, so to be able to add what I have to the role is just something that I think is just a requirement all the way around.
Well, it's absolutely wonderful. It's wonderful what you put into that role, and you can see it's fresh and exciting, and you love the character.
And that's what I was curious.
yes.
You talk about bringing yourself and putting your, spin on it of you. Where do you draw your inspiration?
Oh, I draw my inspiration for everywhere, especially, with Tanya, it's many different roles that I saw kind of growing up. I don't know if y'all know about Jackie Harris.
Oh, yes, I saw a little Jackie in there last night.
I get a little bit of her. I get a little bit, I don't know if you're familiar with A Different World, but some of the characters from there, like I kind of draw from my inspiration as a kid as well. But like I said, most of it's a little bit a sprinkle of Jalynn on there. So.
There is a moment where people, I don't want to give anything away, but you do something when you think you're being watched. Funniest laugh I have had at the theater in a long time, and your physical comedy is genius.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. It's a lot of fun.
Actress Jalynn Steele plays Tanya on the North American tour of Mamma Mia. Jalynn, thanks so much for joining us here on Hello Houston. Coming up next.
Thank you.
That's right. Coming up next on Hello Houston, we'll talk with real estate agent Kat Robinson about the HAR report and take more calls and your comments at the top of the story, the top stories of the day. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from the Houston Rockets, presenting their 2025-26 season ticket memberships with access to live sports, suite availability, and opportunities for business engagement. More at rockets.com/tickets or 713-758-7300.
Nice sunny day today, high near 80, currently 72. This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
Hello, Houston. I'm Frank Billingsley. Today we're continuing the conversation on HISD's new teacher evaluation system and what the U.S.-China tariff war means for all of us.
And I'm Ernie Manous. The Astrodome is celebrating 60 years, and we want you to celebrate right along with us.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. Share your thoughts, questions, and reactions to all of today's stories. Give us a call at 713-440-8870 or email us talk@hellohouston.org.
Also this hour, Houston Area Realtor Kat Robinson on the latest Houston home market data and a look at the upcoming University of Houston's Frontier Fiesta.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. China has issued a travel warning for its citizens planning to visit the United States. The notification comes as the trade war between the world's top two economies escalates with steep tit-for-tat tariffs. Here's NPR's John Ruich.
China's Ministry of Culture and Tourism issued the warning. It says Chinese tourists should fully assess the risks of traveling to the United States and, quote, travel with caution, given deteriorating economic and trade relations. It also noted the security situation in the United States, but did not give details. Separately, the Ministry of Education issued a reminder to students planning to study abroad to carefully assess safety risks and enhance their awareness of potential dangers when considering studying in certain U.S. states. The notice referenced an Ohio law that restricts educational exchanges in cooperation with China. The moves come on the heels of the Chinese government retaliating for high tariffs placed on Chinese goods by the Trump administration. John Ruich, NPR News, Beijing.
This today from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
I think it's unfortunate that the Chinese actually don't want to come and negotiate because they are the worst offenders in the international trading system. They have the most imbalanced economy in the history of the modern world. And I can tell you that this escalation is a loser for them.
Bessent on Fox Business News. The White House says it is freezing more than $1 billion in federal funding for Cornell University and around $790 million for Northwestern University while the government investigates alleged civil rights violations at both schools. Here's NPR's Alyssa Nadworny.
The funding cuts are part of an effort by the Trump administration to use government funding to get colleges and universities to comply with the president's political agenda. In a statement, Cornell said it had received more than 75 stop work orders from the Department of Defense related to research in national defense, cybersecurity, and health. The university's president said they were actively seeking information from the government to understand why these decisions were made. Last month, the Education Department opened an investigation into dozens of universities for allegedly failing to protect Jewish students on campus. Alyssa Nadworny, NPR News.
A federal judge in Texas is blocking the Trump administration's deportation of Venezuelans who are currently in detention in South Texas to El Salvador. ACLU of Texas filed an emergency lawsuit in federal court to pause removals under the Alien Enemies Act for people within that court's judicial district. Within hours, a judge granted a temporary restraining order blocking the government from transferring any person under the act outside two nearby counties. The suit comes after the U.S. Supreme Court earlier this week lifted a pause on the use of the Alien Enemies Act. U.S. stocks trading higher this hour with the Dow up 451 points or more than 1% at last check. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Thomas. Houston ISD teachers
will be paid by their performance rather than experience starting in the 2026-2027 school year. The district's new teacher evaluation system takes in several factors to create an overall annual score for teachers. That score will be used to determine which salary bracket that the teacher falls into, ranging between $64,000 and $92,000 a year. State-appointed Superintendent Mike Miles talked about the new model during a district-produced YouTube video.
We want to make sure that our teachers are effective and provide your students with proficient, effective teachers.
Critics say the system will foster competition among teachers, not collaboration. And Hello Houston is going to talk about this coming up in the next hour. Short-term rentals like Airbnb could soon face regulations in Houston, but not this week. News 88.7's Dominic Anthony Walsh says city council members disagree over the details of the proposed ordinance.
The ordinance would require short-term rentals to register with the city, and it would allow the city to revoke the registration if renters repeatedly commit certain crimes. Some city council members want to strengthen the rules to allow the city to revoke all registrations in multifamily properties for repeat violations. Councilmember Sally Alcorn says problems at those types of properties prompted the regulations in the first place.
We have to start someplace having some kind of teeth to get after the bad actor properties.
Councilmember Letitia Plummer says the change would create overwhelming administrative and financial burdens, and she plans to delay the vote by 1 week. I'm Dominic Anthony Walsh, News 88.7.
We have some very good-looking weather to look forward to for the rest of the week today. Sunny with highs in the lower 80s and then clear with lows in the upper 50s tonight. I'm Matt Thomas, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, where drivers can compare direct rates using Progressive's rate comparison tool. Customers can see options and rates side by side. More at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston.
Hello there. If you're watching us on YouTube, which you can easily do at youtube.com/Houston Public Media, you'll see right before each segment, I fix my hair.
I do
and
too.
I'm like,
nice.
Who am I fixing it for?
We're fixing it for you.
For you. We're fixing it for you. We both just pointed to our cameras. Anyway, a lot going on today's show. Coming up this hour, we're going to find out what's going on in Houston real estate. What's up with the prices and the market, and is it a good time to sell or not to? We'll find out all that. Or can you? Also, we're going to be talking a little bit about a true tradition here around the University of Houston. It's Frontier Fiesta. What is that? What's happening? We're going to find all that out. But we've had a very active morning so far.
That's right. Our first topic earlier was about the Fort Bend Independent School District considering a gender policy that will require parents to be notified if their child uses a pronoun in school that differs from their biological sex. Clearly, it sparked a lot of thought and conversation. We had a lot of calls. You can also call in right now. Do you think parents should be notified if their child is asking to be identified as something other than their biological sex? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
Celeste, I got a very nice email from Ted saying that the phrase biological sex expresses the ignorance that's the root of the problem. And he suggests that we look at some of our U of H campus biology professors and talk about the biological chromosomes and the combinations in human biology. One of our callers said, the genetic dysmorphia is a real thing. Is a real thing. And I think Ted's right. We should. We've also had a couple of other comments. One from Scott from Katy. Why do we need a law that mandates if a child is identified differently when we don't have a law that lets parents know if their child is left-handed?
That's right. And Steve from Cyprus says, I think the schools want to say their authority is superior than the parents. And I think that's absurd. So obviously, people have a lot of thoughts. We want to hear from you. Give us a call, 713-440-8870, or you can also send us an email at talk@hellohouston.org.
In some ways, it seems very obvious what the answer should be. And in other ways, when you start digging down, like so many complex situations, there's such nuance. And It's hard to just paint everything with one brush. And so I wish that even lawmakers would take a moment to consider the alternatives. And even a small number of people are a number of people.
Right.
And we have to be aware
maybe
of
the
their
schools
needs.
should focus on teaching about different factors of biology and transgender and gay and straight and bisexual and non-binary, and teach that as a learning curve so that people that are going to school understand it. And then they can maybe understand it better. And when they do have to come out to their parents, they can say, look, this is what I know about me.
Right. And according to the board documents that were released, the policy did have 5 objectives. We talked about the 5th objective. And to your point, the 4th objective talks about gender fluidity. Content is excluded from the classroom and instructional materials, and district staff will not teach, instruct, train, promote, or share information about gender fluidity or otherwise require any students or other district staff to adapt, adopt, support, or otherwise promote gender fluidity.
And do you know, I'm not making a blanket statement, but I know that there were teachers and gym coaches that had gender fluidity when I was in high school. So I would suggest that the people that are teaching our children also face gender fluidity in their life.
I mean, that's pretty,
So the idea that we're excluding that completely, that must also make the teachers that have their own gender fluidity going in their life feel a little daunted.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but
we got
we'll
a comment from Dr. Garza from downtown. He writes, this issue is overkill with school districts as it only affects about 44 students, but gender dysphoria is a mental illness.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, that they would call it a mental illness, and it's also one of those things where are the resources to help parents and students alike?
Well, mental illness is a little bit of an umbrella. I mean, we're all on the spectrum to some degree.
It's a strong term.
It's a strong term for, I think, something that maybe not be. I disagree with them. I don't think it's a mental illness.
When we talk about funding moving on, it's always our legislators that do that. There's some interesting stuff going on in the party pool. This time in the party pool, I should say in the political pool. That's a better phrase. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton announced Tuesday that he will challenge U.S. Senator John Cornyn in next year's midterm elections, setting up a barn burner clash of 2 Republican titans. This is sure to reverberate across the state and the nation. Interesting. Is this payback? Is it punishment? Did maybe John Cornyn not carry enough of the water for the current administration? And Ken Paxton, who has been much cozier, has been targeted to take him down. We see that happening in
You would
other
think
places.
Somebody has prodded him to get into the race.
You know what I'm wondering? What do people think about it? You can give us a call. Do you think Paxton could beat Cornyn? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
So yesterday we received the actual Ken Paxton press release about this, and the first sentence says, conservative warrior Ken Paxton announces his campaign for U.S. Senate. Attorney General Ken Paxton, a conservative fighter who has always stood with President Trump and championed the America First agenda.
I think that answers Ernie's question.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also interesting, and we've seen this in other places, that pull of Trump's endorsement on someone. But now with what's going on with tariffs and dropping favorability ratings for the president, could that end up being a negative? Could John Cornyn swing this and say, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, I have your voice in mind, but I'm not carrying water for this current administration.
Right.
Could that work this time?
And to that point, Cornyn just recently announced that he's proposing this bill that it was a bipartisan bill, and there are Democrats on it as well as Republicans that they are trying to pass to make it harder for child abusers to be known. They're basically trying to work against child abusers.
But isn't it
and
so
he's
sad
trying to work across the aisle.
We live in a world where working across the aisle in some groupings is seen as a very negative thing, and you should not talk with the others. I mean, our whole show is built on the concept that there are multitudes of ideas and thoughts and theories out there. Call in and share them. We treat each with respect. We want to learn from you why you believe what you believe and understand why we see things the way we see them together.
We don't all have to agree.
And, you can let us know if you do or not. It's 713-440-8870.
So Paxton did say on Fox, it is, quote, time for a change in Texas as he announced this bid. And he blasted Cornyn's, quote, lack of production over his 22 years in the upper chamber. The only comment I would have to that is we do talk a lot about term limits. I mean, we get these senators in there that have been there 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 terms.
Right. 22.
And that seems like a long, 9 might be a bit many. But should there be even term limits on senators and congresspeople?
And the argument is elections are the place where this can happen. If
Right.
you're unhappy, change it.
Well,
if you're happy,
maybe Paxton
keep
is
it.
trying to
And
term limit Cornyn.
Elections matter all the way down to our school boards.
Please remember this, people.
Because we were just talking about this transgender policy that is implemented in Katy ISD, Cy-Fair ISD, and now Fort Bend ISD. And, if you really are passionate about it, you can make a change by voting.
We have an election coming up on May 3rd, I do believe is the date. Remember, all elections matter. Please make sure you're registered. Get out there. You can go to vote.org to find out. And vote. Let your voice be heard as often as you do here on this show at the ballot box.
Yeah, call us. Let us know what you think. 713-440-8870. Speaking of the state, this is I reported on hemp when it was becoming popular in the early 90s, and it was controversial.
Wasn't hemp one of the Marx brothers?
No.
But dad joke. Celeste doesn't even get it at all. She's like,
all right, so
who?
six years ago, the state rolled back restrictions on sales of consumable hemp, at least hemp-based products, right? So it's a multi-billion, I think it's $6 billion outright in Texas, with another couple of billion just ancillary economically. So we're talking about an $8 billion business in the state of Texas, but due to the hemp-based products. So now Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick has made shutting down the industry one of his top legislative goals, saying it's targeting children and fueling a public health crisis. His legislation, which has already passed the Senate, it's awaiting action in the House, has some Texans cheering, others despondent. What do you think? 713-440-8870. I think there are so many other things that we could be concerned with, like maybe cigarettes, for instance. Vaping, for instance. Texting and driving, for instance. And
alcohol.
We're worried about alcohol to underage, absolutely. But
Prohibitionist here at the corner of the table.
No. If you're 21, drink all you want.
Within reason.
Well, the business owners, some people are saying, look, I'm going to take my shop and go to Colorado, and we're going to lose $6 to $8 billion in business.
Yep.
Let me tell you, Colorado can be fun.
Well, they always say, I've been to Colorado, they always say that eliminating it would only drive it underground. So you're still going to get that business.
We see that across almost everything when you eliminate almost anything.
And we're not going to have the testing of it.
Before it was legal, I'm sure people were able to acquire it in this state. So now there's an industry that's making money off of it.
Well, apparently when they legalized this bill, it created a loophole, and it allows a very highly potent chemically synthesized version of THC into these products. So gummies and chips and vapes and drinks actually have a little bit, I guess, of the THC product. So that's what they're looking to ban in Senate Bill
I don't know
B.
why this makes me giggle.
You know exactly why it makes you laugh, and I'm going to fess up here, and I'm a terrible person. I will start this conversation connection with that. So if you've been listening, you know that my mom turned 90 this past week. So this weekend we had a birthday party for her. Well, I didn't have any help at home where my mom lives with me, and I was trying to get ready for this party, and my mom, who does have dementia, was extremely inquisitive about every single thing, and I couldn't get anything done. And I gave her a gummy to calm her down. Well, it's her 90th birthday, and everyone shows up at the party, and my mom is just sitting in the chair, and she's like, hello, how are you? Now, if anyone knows my mom, she is very vivacious.
Very bubbly.
She's the only one who doesn't realize that she has dementia. And everyone thought, oh, the poor lady, she's 90. Look how frail she is. And I couldn't admit, no, I gave her a gummy, and she's moving slow.
And to your point, my mother had dementia also, and her appetite was lousy, and she got very on edge.
Yeah.
And we would give her pot chocolate, which is legal in the state of Arkansas. I mean, that's what it was. It was look, first of all, it's delicious because it was milk chocolate. She loved chocolate, so she would eat that. It would stimulate her appetite, and it would calm her down. So I'm all for pot chocolate in certain cases. I mean, medicinal marijuana is in some states.
Yeah.
And
well, it was medicinal for me on Saturday night, and I apologize for any of the guests who thought my mom was a frail 90-year-old. Come over another day. You'll see what I put up with every day.
That's right. And if you have any comments about
Ernie drugging his mother.
Nobody's commenting on this. None of our viewers, our listeners, apparently are hip fans.
Well, you can give us a call at 713-440-8870. We have a call right now. Dr. Stewart from Rice Village. Hello, Dr. Stewart.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. What is your question or comment today?
My comment was just kind of in general. I mean, we're talking about Ken Paxton and John Corman, and my thoughts on that is they're too old. I personally think that, just like we have age restrictions on how young person can be to make policy, there should be restrictions on how old people can be. And, cognitive decline is shown to start happening for most people, after 65.
Well,
a lot of oil and gas companies require retirement at 65, and I think that should also apply to our politicians.
Well, Ken is 62, just FYI. Ken Paxton is 62 years old.
And John Cornyn is 73, to put it in perspective.
Yeah.
So
I think you have a point. It's a lot of work. Being a senator is a lot of work.
And Dr. Stewart, I'm sure what's ringing in the back of your mind, too, is what we saw in the presidential election last year, that, you're right. We have senior people vying for this most important job. Maybe we need to look a little bit more at that. Agreed?
I totally agree. And I think innovation comes from young minds.
Mm-hmm. But experience, I hope, comes from older minds.
There's a balance, definitely, but I know when you're looking at creatives and when you're looking at market disruptors and things that have really brought about a lot of good, if you're looking at businesses and entrepreneurs, a lot of those come from young people, and a lot of the policies that get enacted, they're going to affect the younger generation. So I think that more thought and more consideration should be given to them.
Great point. Thank you very much, Dr. Stewart, for joining us right now. What do you think? Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Call in about any of the topics we've been chatting about today. Before we run out of time in this segment, I want to let everyone know that the Harris County Public Health is offering, important right now for everyone, free measles vaccinations to children and adults through April 23rd. There have been more than 600 measles cases that have been reported since a recent measles outbreak in West Texas. The Houston Health Department has reported 4 measles cases this year. It sounds very small, but considering we never have them, 4 is important. Fort Bend County has reported 1 case. Each of these cases have been tied to international travel, not the measles outbreak in West Texas, but as Dr. Troisi said on our show earlier in the week, it lingers in the air. Somebody can have internationally traveled and been sick, coughed in the air, and it lasts for up to 2 hours. The free measles vaccines are offered in partnership with Harris County Commissioner Leslie Briones. Residents are encouraged to schedule an appointment by calling. I pause for a minute for you to get your pen and paper out. 832-927-7350. If you can, get vaccinated.
Well, and from what I've been told, even if you think you are vaccinated, but
doesn't
aren't
hurt
sure,
to do it again.
Right, you can get that once again.
And they're free.
And you could probably talk to your health provider or even a pharmacist could tell you exactly what you should be doing there. But everyone should get vaccinated, I think.
Absolutely. And coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk with Houston Area Realtors Kat Robinson, who is coming in right off the press. We're going to discuss the monthly HAR report that is always released monthly right at noon.
Oh. Right now.
And we're also taking your calls on any of today's topics at 713-440-8870. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Houston Public Media brings to you PBS World, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on TV 8.6. Experience the personal connection behind the headlines with programming devoted to telling stories that humanize complex issues. PBS World helps us understand the movements, conflicts, and cultures that connect us all. PBS World on TV 8.6 and online at HoustonPublicMedia.org.
This week in This American Life, a well-respected surgeon, 96 years old, has a secret that he wants the world to know. And so before he dies, he leaves a voicemail.
I have some information perhaps you might like to hear. Hanging up now. Bye.
People tossing words out into the world carelessly, and they ignite and burn for years this week.
This American Life. It's tonight at 9 p.m.
On the hit medical drama The Pit, actress Taylor Dearden is being celebrated for her portrayal of a talented young emergency room doctor who, like Dearden, is neurodivergent.
Recognizing that something's hard for anyone and then being able to overcome it if you are neurodivergent, hopefully that should just make it even sweeter.
I'm Elsa Chang. How The Pit portrays neurodivergence and gets it right. On All Things Considered from NPR News.
You can hear it today at 3 o'clock.
Support comes from Gen Pro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com. Support comes from Collaborative for Children's Collab Kid U this Saturday at Rice University. There, young children can engage in STEAM activities, explore coding, climate solutions, and more. Tickets at collabforchildren.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to the program. I have to tell you, it's funny. While we're on the air, we can't watch our YouTube feed.
Right.
But it's very active, and people make a lot of comments. And then afterwards on my phone, I can't get the comments back. So one of our producers wrote me to tell me, Gerald just put in there, quote, "The show is getting better every day. You guys have great chemistry. Keep it up."
Thanks,
It's all those gummies you bring to work. They help amazing.
I
do not partake.
I
don't
only
either.
drug my mother. I do not drug anyone.
I can't do any of that. I get too
I don't
paranoid.
even take Tylenol.
Yeah, I know. I'm not a pill person.
Try meloxicam. That's even better. It's
What about lorazepam?
What about our next guest?
Okay.
Piper, no.
Kat Robinson is here with us. She's the HAR Vice Chair, a local agent for Compass Real Estate. Kat, welcome to Hello Houston. We're going to talk about this new report.
Thank you so much for having me.
I love real estate. I buy and sell a bit myself. My mom was a realtor. I love to go to open houses just to snoop.
Don't we all?
Don't we all? So tell us some good news. The average home price up, down? Where are we on
So
all of
average
that?
home price is actually up a little bit,
Yeah.
and sales are up, which is really exciting because we've seen numbers slip over the last 6 months.
Well, and we had this interest rate hike about 2 years ago that scared everybody to death.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
I want to tell you, the first home I bought in the 80s,
Mhm.
the interest rate was 12.5%.
God.
And right before we closed, my realtor called and said, "I have great news. We're down to 11.5%. And I was like, "Oh my God, 11.5!"
Sweet.
Where are we now? About 6.6?
We're 6.1.
6.1?
So around through there, yeah.
So that's good. What do you think? You think interest rates will come down because of the tariff issue? Or,
Oh my gosh.
I know you're not an economist.
I mean,
but-
I really wish I had a magic ball that would tell me everything,
Yeah.
but I feel like the volatility in our world's market is offering some opportunity locally. So I
we
think
have a pretty high inventory, right?
we've got great inventory, 4.6 months of choices for everyone, and I think between the volatility of the interest rates with them slipping compared to 2 years ago, right, where they were 8%, now they're around 6%, plus the multiple choices you
Kind
have.
of a
It's
buyer's
just gonna,
market, would you say?
I think so. I think, my current buyers, thankfully, we've been able to negotiate a little bit extra off a price and also get more repairs done because sellers want to get the deal done.
But for your industry, it's better when prices go up because there's more profit to be made. But at the same time, you want prices low enough that people can get into buying homes and all. How do you settle that in your own world? Where is the sweet spot?
Well, I think the sweet spot would be a 5% interest rate.
Right, which
That would be
mortgages rates
amazing.
still have not gone down. I mean, are we at around 7%?
No, they're around 6 now.
right now.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry about that.
and
Yeah.
depending upon what type of loan product you're going after, there are some really great products where I think one of my buyers just locked in 5.5%.
So
using
you
a
could
special
buy
program.
down the points a bit.
Well, you can buy it down, but there's also special programs that the federal government requires lenders to have a certain percentage of loans in low to moderate income areas. And as diverse as Houston is and our lack of zoning, you would be really surprised as to what would qualify as a low to moderate
Is there
income
still
area.
is there still private mortgage insurance required on 90% loans?
Yes. Yes.
'Cause, so to fight that, back a few years, they would do an 80-10-10. And you would have an 80% primary loan and a 10% a loan and maybe put 10% down. But you didn't have to have private mortgage insurance because your primary was 80.
Yeah.
Kind of sneaky, but I mean, if you can get it to work.
Yeah, that was one way to work it. I haven't seen people use that strategy recently at all.
Yeah.
A lot of buyers are choosing to buy down the mortgage insurance right up front, or if their credit score is high enough, they could do a 10% down and get out of it. So there's some really cool programs out there. The key is to match up with a really well-invested realtor who knows the right lenders to push you to.
Oh, if anyone has a question for you, I want to give this number, 713-440-8870. So let us know if you have any questions from Kat. So you've been doing this for how many, 10 years?
13 years.
13 years.
Yeah, lucky 13.
So you've seen the swings, you've seen the ups and downs. Where are we now, do you think?
I think we're in a really positive space. Again, with sliding interest rates, with tons of choices, it's a win-win for both buyer and seller right now.
Is there any place that's particularly popular? I know for a long time that Garden Oaks and Candle, I know it's all that area up to north of I-10 and the 610 Loop and the Heights, big popular places. Is that still true?
Yeah, those are great places. But the top communities that are selling are new home communities in the way northeast of town, because those builders have purchased, pre-purchased mortgages ahead of time and are offering 4.99% locked in 30-year notes. So buyers getting a lot more for their money out yonder, way out yonder.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because these hot places that have come and continued, the tax basis has gone with it. So do people have to look at that when they buy something? I think, how much is the taxes going to be?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the conundrum that we all have is that the older the neighborhood, the lower the taxes are, because traditionally the debt that was developed or the debt was put into place to develop the land has been paid off. So that tax rate is lower, but you have older homes that aren't as energy efficient, right? So you can either have an older home, lower tax rate, higher electricity bills possible, or you can go to a brand new home where your tax rate's a little higher, but your energy bills might be lower.
My mama always said nothing beats new, that's for sure. So let me ask you this question that's weather related. The flood issues that we have in Houston, are these builders of these new communities, are they making sure that doesn't happen where they're building these places?
Well, our county and cities are really adamant about flood control. And so they do have many, many requirements for dry reservoir space, drainage, all of those pieces to keep our homes as dry as possible.
That's good.
Yeah.
I want to jump in and remind everyone here that we are talking about the Houston real estate market. We're talking with HAR Vice Chair Kat Robinson, a local agent with Compass Real Estate. And our number here, if you would like to call in and join in the conversation or ask your questions while we have her right in house, 713-440-8870. I want to go back to that thing that we were talking about a little bit ago, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, but from where you sit and this idea of these tariffs and steel and lumber and prices, do you think if folks are thinking about buying a home to jump now and do it, or do you think waiting to see what happens with interest rates and all that, it's better to hedge your bet a little bit here and wait? When is the time, if you're in the mindset of thinking, new property for me?
Yeah. Honestly, if it is your primary residence, you buy when it's time.
Yeah.
You don't need to play the market because, whenever you have that extra, that surprise baby and now you're too much family for your home, you move. When you are relocating, you move. So life circumstances are going to push you to make a good decision for your family when it time.
I have a quick question because, Kat, the HAR releases that report, their monthly report.
Yes.
What are we seeing right now at noon that is different from last month, 6 months ago, that people that are obviously not going to be reading this need to know and should know?
So I think the key points is that inventory is up.
Yep.
Right. So more choices. That's fantastic for buyers. Sales are up, which is great for sellers. It's showing that buyers are active in the market, ready to go. And what's great is we had a 12% increase of pending sales. So that means if everything closes as intended, we're going to see a surge in sales again next month.
To that point, closing can be an issue. That can get backed up.
Right. There's so many moving parts to a transaction in real estate. So again, the key is pairing up with an incredible realtor who knows transactions and has open communication with all the different parties involved in a transaction to get it to close.
That's fair.
And so you mentioned sales are up right now. Where would you say is hot in the greater Houston area? Demand is hitting and people are going to this area.
Again, it's the new construction. I'm seeing the biggest amount of sales there, and that's location based. But the biggest surge in sales are the $1 million plus. So year over year, we saw a 26% increase of sales in $1 million plus luxury properties in Houston.
Wow, well, that's interesting. So do people still move for schools?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so given that we're seeing that $1 million plus, obviously we're looking at national news. Now, President Trump's tariffs have been announced. Have you seen any kind of, I know it's very new, but are y'all anticipating that is going to move the market in any direction?
Well, it's definitely going to increase the cost of new construction with all of the different materials that we import. So, and I think it's important as a consumer that you know that new construction is your ceiling for the price for housing. So if you're trying to sell in a neighborhood where there's new construction, guess what? There could be some equity coming your way because of the tariffs. So there's some silver lining to that.
What about, there seem to be more and more tax breaks for homestead exemptions coming out of the Texas legislature.
Yes.
Can you update us on that?
Yeah, our political action committee is all over lobbying for lower property taxes. So we were actually at the Capitol 2 weeks ago. Over 3,000 realtors showed up to meet with our legislators. 181 meetings took place on that one day. It's bananas.
Well, what was your main message?
It was, hey, home ownership is the platform for success. Number one, we know that homeownership provides a foundation for kids to flourish, for humans to flourish, because we know where we're going to put our head at night and where we're going to start our day, right? And so we've got to do everything we can to protect that, including reducing property taxes.
Are we getting millennials on board with that idea? I've heard that a lot of young people prefer to rent. Well, I don't know.
Me.
Yeah, exactly.
Hello.
Kat and I are in this conversation. And what we would like to say is that,
I'm talking about people younger than you,
all right,
actually.
Kat, take it away. You're the expert in this, but I'm right behind you.
Yes. No, we all know that there is value in home ownership. It creates legacy wealth. It really allows us to propel ourselves and others forward, right?
But you said it yourself. You've bought and, you have houses or, properties. When you were buying during your time,
I built 2 houses.
The housing market was much different. You could get a ranch style, home in close to inside the loop for much less than what you can get it for now.
But I remember my favorite thing was to look at the Sunday Chronicle home section every Sunday morning, just thumbing through and see what's for sale. And it was all out of reach. It was like, oh my gosh, how does anybody ever afford a $350,000 house?
$350,000 house. Kat, take it away.
I mean,
oh my gosh.
I know now
Yes.
it's 1.350.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
that.
It is.
I know that.
Yeah.
But it's always, like you say, there are creative ways to really, if you find your dream home, there's a good realtor can figure out a way to get it to you.
100%. And the key is that, again, you find a great realtor. Please interview multiple realtors to make sure that you're comfortable with them. Go ahead and be honest with your financial status. Mm-hmm. So I had just closed a deal this week, and we talked through everything. They had just retired. Well, guess what? If you don't have income coming in,
I know that.
You're not going to get a mortgage. So talking with their financial advisor and making sure everything is in line, we were able to put in an offer and get it closed.
And this deal with representing the buyer and the seller, or both of them, that kind of changed recently.
So it is a conflict of interest, personally. I don't think it's a great idea to do both at the same time, but there are very professional realtors out there that can do that.
We have a caller on the line, Ronnie from Pasadena, who has a question for Kat.
Please interview multiple.
Hi, Ronnie.
I was trying to sell my house recently, and the market went soft right whenever I was trying to sell it. And part of that problem was realtor fees are just so high that it was going to be almost $15,000 for me to sell my house. And I was going to have to cut a check at closing, which was definitely not something I wanted to do. So now I'm going to rent out my house. And I've never done that before. Nobody in my family's ever done that before. I'm curious about the tax breaks on doing maintenance and repairs on the house. And I think I have to remove the homestead because it won't be my primary residence anymore. Let me know what you think about all that.
Yeah, that's a very large amount of information that I can go with. So, so number one, realtor fees are negotiable. They are always negotiable, and I think that's important that you know. And for me, during my entire career, I have not increased my fee. It's a set amount.
6%?
And I'll discuss it one-on-one with my clients.
I understand.
But it's a percent.
It's a percentage. And that percentage is usually, it's been a stable number for hundreds of years in real estate. So we're not asking for raises. It's just the property prices are going up, right? And if you choose to rent your property because it's not selling, a lot of my personal clients are doing that right now because they want X amount and the market's not going to get it there. So we're going to put in a tenant. You need to talk to your accountant about the best way to manage the maintenance fees, the tenant paying rent, all of those different pieces of the puzzle to make sure that you make the best decision for your family.
Yes, please keep going, Kat.
And so you also have to understand that being on the market for a long period of time is frustrating and it's not ideal. But to slowly but surely chip away maybe $1,000 a month off that list price could actually stimulate a buyer too. So again, talk about the strategy. Look at the numbers. Overall, if your price range is seeing an increase in sales, why don't you just hold tight? Be patient, let it play out. If you're seeing a decline in that number, then let's investigate to see, well, what kind of inventory is actually available, because the $150,000 to $200,000 price point doesn't see a lot of movement because there's just not inventory available. So there's a lot of data and numbers to crunch to come up with an appropriate strategy, whether you're selling, trying to buy, rent, all of those different pieces of the puzzle.
And you're listening to Hello Houston. We are talking with Kat Robinson with the Houston Association of Realtors, Vice Chair, and an agent with Compass Real Estate. We have another caller, Jasmine from Sugar Land. Jasmine, what's your question for Kat?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
My question for Kat would be, what is her advice for Airbnb businesses? Where will be the best location for buyers on a small budget?
Okay, so short-term rentals are a hot topic right now with our city and our state. So number one, be sure that you do your due diligence in the neighborhood, because some HOAs are cracking down on it. Yeah. Some cities and counties are cracking down on Airbnbs. So there's a lot of resources available for those who want to invest in an Airbnb. And I'm happy to get those out on a personal level. The key is that you look for a place where there's a lot of tourism. There's always a win. Or where there's not a lot of housing available. So a lot of grandparents love to do an Airbnb so they can stay close by to the parent or to their grandkids for a month or two. Right. And so I think those are some opportunities that are overlooked whenever it comes to location.
I guess I'm going to know your answer, at least your feelings about this question, but your thoughts on for sale by owner, foregoing a realtor and just selling to someone who's interested in your property.
It happens all the time. And for those who are experienced sellers, you know what? Go for it. I would obviously say, hey, can I interview for the job? But I think if you are well versed in it and are comfortable with understanding inspections, understanding mortgage, understanding title, all of those different pieces, then you know what? Go for it. We all love to save money. Yeah. Right. But I will say that there are so many pieces of the puzzle that I would recommend hiring a realtor to make sure that everything
Right. You do
goes
more than just show houses.
Oh, we are way more than door openers. That is a fact.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if we have Trudy on the line. I think Trudy's still with us. Do you have a call? Do you have a question for us, Trudy?
Yes.
Trudy, I hear a marching band in the background.
Yeah, sorry, I'm driving.
Okay. What's your question?
Yeah, my question is, I'm trying to buy a house as a first-time home buyers, and I'm trying to get all the benefits I can get. I'm in medical field, and I've heard stories that they do have, like, some healthcare workers benefits for buying first-time home buyer, and also they have federal grants. So I wanted to find out the resources for all those benefits that I can benefit from.
First-time home buyer.
Thanks, Trudy.
Thank you, Trudy.
What are the options for her?
Yeah, so you can have your FHA loan for sure. That's 3.5% down, and most of the mortgage companies that offer the FHA loan will also give benefits to our healthcare workers, our first responders, teachers. So those are really incredible opportunities. Again, the low to moderate income areas, which again, Spring Branch qualifies for that, which is a great school district. You can get 0% down, no PMI, and it's a win. That saves hundreds of dollars every month.
Frank was just doing a cheer symbol back there.
Yeah, he almost did a cartwheel.
Well, it's hardly ever used, I mean, it's just a ripoff.
Yeah. So, Trudy, I think the key is that you sit down with a realtor, talk about what your goals are, what your budget is, and talk to many, many lenders about their programs before you apply. Again, you don't want your credit checked multiple times by multiple lenders. You need to talk to them about what programs they have for first-time home buyers and for healthcare workers. And if they don't have anything, say next. Move on to the next one.
There you go.
Kat, thank you very much. And that was great advice to end on for folks. Kat Robinson is with the Houston area of realtors. I mean, they are retailers too in some way, where she serves as vice chair and an agent with Compass Real Estate. Kat, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And come back with these numbers so we'll always know what's going on out there. Coming up next, the University of Houston has Frontier Fiesta. It's coming up, and we're excited. We're going to talk about it with the organizers right here as Hello Houston continues.
On the next Fresh Air, how can one man disrupt the global economy? We talk about Trump's tariffs, why they've led stock markets to plummet, how they're changing our relationship with allies and adversaries, and what tariffs mean for our daily lives. We talk with Zanny Minton-Beddoes, editor-in-chief of The Economist. Join us.
You can hear Fresh Air. It's coming up tonight at 8 on News 88.7.
A strong Houston public media is an essential source for an informed, engaged, and connected community. We appreciate our Affinity Council leadership for fostering an environment that prioritizes respect, well-being, and growth for our audience. Bridget and Danny Sandifer, Joanne Splendoria Levy, Barbara and Louis Sklar, Lorraine and Thomas Stock, the John R. Wright and Eloise Mountain Wright Foundation family. Thank you.
Houston Public Media brings to you PBS World, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on TV 8.6. Experience the personal connection behind the headlines with programming devoted to telling stories that humanize complex issues. PBS World helps us understand the movements, conflicts, and cultures that connect us all. PBS World on TV 8.6 and online at HoustonPublicMedia.org.
Support comes from Downtown Houston Plus, with new businesses like Tenfold Coffee Company, Meow Wolf, Barbacana, Punchline Comedy Club, and Bubble Boba. Details at downtownhouston.org. Support comes from the School of Science and Technology, a public charter school providing academic development through college preparatory and STEM-based learning models. Grades pre-K through 12, enrollment open now. Details at sstschools.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
All right, welcome back to Hello Houston. Hello, Celeste. We're on our last 10 minutes here. Hi,
Hello,
Ernie.
Frank.
We made it to the end almost. It's
All right.
so close.
I know the weather's going to be beautiful for Art Car Parade. It's also going to be beautiful for the Frontier Fiesta.
Same weather.
Same weather. Same great station, same great channel. Look, tomorrow, this starts tomorrow through Saturday here on the U of H campus. It's free. Features a carnival, a headline concert, a barbecue cook-off, so much more, hosted by student organizations. Frontier Fiesta's board chair is Bailey Payne, and she's here in our studio. Bailey, tell us about this year's Frontier Fiesta.
Yeah, hi guys. So Frontier Fiesta is
Okay, start over.
All right. So Frontier Fiesta is actually UH's longest and oldest standing programming tradition. It started in 1939. So
wow.
it's been around for a while. And we're really excited about it this year. It will be happening tomorrow through Saturday. Gates open at 5 on Thursday and Friday and noon on Saturday. Saturday is also Family Fun Day, so bring out your family. We will have an alumni cook-off. We'll have carnival booths from our student organizations. We'll have lots of different programming, as well as a headlining concert in collaboration with the Student Program Board. And we are excited to finally announce it is Nardo Wick. So any Nardo Wick fans, make sure to come on out. It is completely free for not only students, but also the Houston community in general.
So that is great. You know, I've been on this campus almost 30 years, and I see this little village pop up every year. I've never been, but I'm always fascinated by it.
Yeah, so we actually build it all ourselves. We have our fronts we have contracted out, but all of our big murals and small murals, we build it ourselves. I've had to learn how to use power tools over my past 4 years of involvement.
You're way ahead of me. So where exactly on campus is it located?
Yeah, so it's going to be in that parking lot right next to TDECU Stadium. It's pretty hard to miss. We have lots of huge tents set up. So, but Lot F was where.
Parking.
Yeah, we have free parking in the stadium garage over the course of the event. So that's pretty
exciting.
exciting.
Right along the rail line, too. So that
yeah,
makes it
you could also ride the
easy.
metro.
Do you have a
as well.
particular rideshare spot or just?
We have, I don't think we actually do have a designated rideshare spot. I know that you can kind of just drop off in front of the festival and come on in.
So Bailey, cheering an event like this is a huge undertaking. How long do you guys start to prepare and really think about how you're going to make the festival better from last year?
Yeah, so we go, the event's in April. We start in May of the year before. So actually, they'll start replanning it right after Fiesta is over. I'm a senior, so it's my last year with it.
Congratulations.
She's smiling big.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited about it.
So take me a little bit back and explain what it is and the purpose of it, why we do it.
Yeah, so the reason that it started was actually because students were looking for a way to just celebrate all together, and there wasn't really something like that on campus. Frontier Fiesta predates homecoming, so we didn't even have a homecoming. And this was just a way for students to come together and hang out and just really chill out in the second half of the year. And it did experience some periods where it wasn't happening just due to World War II.
Little things like that.
Yeah, university. When the university transitioned into a 4-year university, funding did have to go elsewhere. So it did disappear for a little bit then. But it came back in the 90s because the alumni really missed it, and they really wanted to see that tradition come back, and it's been strong ever since. So
I like the name. Where did that come from? Do you know?
Frontier Fiesta?
Yeah.
I actually couldn't even tell you where it's been around so long. Those are kind of the details that get lost.
You have New Frontiers. You're about to
That's right. So the cook-off is the largest source of the community participation at Frontier Fiesta. Tell us more about the cook-off. What type of foods are going to be, competitions going on?
So we have competition all 3 days of Fiesta, and really just cook-off favorites, stuff like brisket, chili. We have Chef's Choice, where they make some pretty exciting things. We have fajitas. We used to do a bake-off. We don't do the bake-off anymore, but, if you guys rally enough for it.
Well, quick question. So are these different restaurants? Are these students on the UH campus?
It's our alumni. It's our alumni. It's
all the alumni.
A lot of Greek Life alumni or Frontier Fiesta Board alumni. We see a lot of participation out of people who have that deep connection to the
so you
event.
may not be done.
Oh, well,
I
could come back, I suppose. I could come back. And I'm not very talented in the kitchen. I don't think they want me in the cook-off. But
Okay, I judge at rodeo cook-off. How do I become a judge at Frontier Fiesta cook-off?
Honestly.
You just did.
I'm hoping.
Honestly, if you're interested, just reach out to us and let us know. We're always looking for people to judge. So if that's something you're interested in, shoot us a little email. We'll see where we can fit you
Who wouldn't
in.
be interested in
I know.
barbecue
So,
cook-off?
Bailey, you mentioned you're a senior. What have been some of your favorite memories here at the University of Houston campus?
Yeah, my Frontier Fiesta involvement is my favorite thing I've done. I mean, it
takes a lot of your time.
I've been involved since I was a freshman. I started as an assistant director, which is like our volunteer program, and that's a lot of times how people transition onto our paid positions on the board. I've made all of my best friends in school through Frontier Fiesta, and so it's just like, it has such a special place in my heart. I'll definitely be crying on the last day for sure.
Well, you said it starts at 5 o'clock on Thursday and 5 o'clock on Friday and noon on Saturday. When does it end?
It'll end at midnight all 3 days. So it goes all day on Saturday.
I'm excited to party now. Wiggling in my chair.
I have to ask, are you serving beer?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We are sponsored by Silver Eagle, so we'll have some of their.
Oh, really?
We have Bud Light seltzers, usually Bud Light, and then a few more local beers as well.
Is there a fundraising element to it all?
Yes, so we have a scholarship that we give out to incoming students every year, and that money is raised through our Fiesta royalty competition. So we have these variety shows put on by our Greek life organizations, and they usually elect a few people from their organization to donate money and raise money for Frontier Fiesta scholarships.
Well, as we wrap up the show, thank you so much for coming in and sharing this with us.
Great
Bailey
weather.
Payne. Yeah, and she is the chair of Frontier Fiesta's board. So come on out to the Fiesta. I do want to take a quick moment and note something one of our callers called in to tell us that they wanted to clarify, Debbie wanted to clarify, that the Harris County Public Health that was giving the free measles vaccine is doing it for people without insurance. People with insurance should go to their own doctors. There you go.
Fair
now
enough.
you know it. Thank you again, Bailey, for coming
Thanks,
in.
Bailey.
And boy, oh boy, are we going to go Frontier Fiesta-ing? I think we have a busy weekend.
We have
a lot going on. But if you don't, Frontier Fiesta happens right here on the University of Houston campus. Quickly, before you go, where can they find out online more?
Yep, it'll be uh.edu/Fiesta.
Perfect.
Love it.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of our little ditty of a show for today. We'll be back again tomorrow talking about all the topics and thoughts and issues that are exciting and fascinating you right now. And as always, we invite you to be part of the conversation. You can call in at 713-440-8870 or join us with your emails at talk@hellohouston.org. For all of us here in the studio, so long. See you tomorrow.
Yep.
See you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.